Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 248 of The Joy of Coding. My name's Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. We're going to be hacking on Firefoxy things today, and let's get started. Why delay? Why don't even worry about it? So let me change my screen here. Right, so today is May 5th, 2021. I'm streaming from home. The internet could fall over at any time. It's actually been a little bit flaky this week, so who knows what will happen during the course of the stream. But if things fall over, we'll recover, we'll deal with it. But that's just a friendly reminder that no plan survives breakfast. I think I know what I want to do today. I have a sense of how I want to proceed, but things might not go according to plan, and that's okay. We're capturing software development in the raw, and this might not be a smooth stream, but none of them really are. And that's okay. It's happy mistakes. That's the first thing. The second thing, this agenda that you're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the video description for a link. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, there'll be a link in the details portion of the surrounding video player. And if you're watching this on Twitch, then the link is right here. Let me, agenda 248, here we go. Let me just drop this into the Twitch chat. Booyashaka. Episode 248. And we're 2 episodes away from 250. And I think I know what I want to do for the 250th episode. Here are my 2 ideas. More spicy coding. I'll order some really, really spicy wings, or I'll get some ghost pepper chips or something, and I will do some some kind of timed release of really spicy food while I work. That's one, and we've done that before. I think I did that for episode 200 and episode 150. But we could do that again. The other thing we might do is maybe I can do a stream where I watch an older stream and react to myself. I watch an episode from back in 2017 or 2018, and I can pause it and we can talk a little bit about what's going on in the stream, maybe the things I've learned since that time or how things have changed. That may or may not be interesting. I don't know. Let me know what you think by clicking on the link in the agenda to rate this episode and give me a sense of whether or not those ideas are any good. And speaking of rate this episode, I want to mention there was a question that came in. Well, first of all, thank you to everyone who does rate the episode and gives me feedback. I love reading all the stuff that comes in and getting a sense of what folks want to see and hear. And a question came in because there's a section now in the forum for questions. And the question was, what monitors do I use? It's basically a hardware question. What monitors do I use? What computer laptop do I use? Do I use a mechanical keyboard? And how often do I encounter a function or fragment of code that I need to look up or learn? These are all great questions, and I'm so glad that they were asked. Thank you to the asker, whoever they were. So I have an Asus HDMI monitor. I got it from, I think, Best Buy. I think it was a couple of $100s. It's nothing fancy. I don't need it to have a really, it's not like one of those curved fancy monitors or anything. It's not it's not anything special. And the same goes for the keyboard I use. This is, I think, a keyboard that came with the PC tower that I have. This is a Lenovo keyboard, and I don't know what constitutes a mechanical keyboard. You'd think that all keyboards are effectively mechanical. There's a mechanical property to them, but I don't know what I know people get excited about mechanical keyboards, but I don't know what the difference is between a mechanical keyboard and a non-mechanical keyboard. In my mind, something mechanical is something that has moving parts, and I think all keyboards have moving parts unless it's a touch screen, or some kind of capacitance, resistance measuring. I don't know how else you can have a keyboard unless it's a touch screen. So I think they're all mechanical, right? But this keyboard is nothing special. Again, it's like a Lenovo. It came with the PC tower. There's a serial number at the back. It is model number SK-8825, and then an L in parentheses. Maybe that's for large. And it does okay. Like, these keyboards are fine. It's not one of those ergonomic ones, although I have used those before and they're quite nice. But you know, this does all right. I've got the mouse is the same. It's just it's what came with the PC tower, and I plug it into this hub that goes into my MacBook. So there's a question here about what computer laptop do I use. So the PC tower that I use, that's running my virtual machines and it's running on Windows 10, that is a Lenovo ThinkStation P710. I had to look up the manual recently, but it's a ThinkStation P710. And I don't know how much these are, or like, I got it through work. It's not mine. I you know, I don't own it. It's works, but I guess they discontinued it. You can't get it anymore. But at the time, which was like 3 or some odd years ago, it was very, very powerful. It's still quite powerful. Like, it serves my needs. I can build quite quickly on it, but it looks like it's discontinued. But this is a very accurate picture of what it looks like if we could get rid of that discontinued. Yeah, this is what it looks like. And look, these people are doing like brain scans. Now, I'm not doing brain scans, but I am using this machine. So that's one thing that I use, and it's not plugged into. It's right now. I don't even have it plugged into a monitor or anything. It's sitting in a room plugged into the network here where I live, and I just RDP, I remote desktop into it. And that's how I use that machine. And for my MacBook, like my Apple hardware, this is a MacBook that's a couple of years old. Let's take a look at the date. It's from 2019. It's a 16-inch 2019 running Catalina still, because we're still in the midst of a project. It's the retheme project for Firefox 89 is starting to like kind of finish off. Like, we're doing the polishing bits, but I tend not to do upgrades. I think I mentioned this last week. I tend not to do OS upgrades or updates while I'm in the middle of a project. And so once it ships, probably like it's going to ship at the beginning of June, I believe. Then whenever that's out the door, I'll upgrade all my stuff. I think my Ubuntu VM is also needing to be updated. I think it's still using Bionic, and this operating system needs to be updated, and there are a bunch of updates to a couple of other virtual machines that need to be done. So hopefully that answers your question. You know, thank you for the. Oh, and the last question here was, how often do I encounter a function or fragment of code that I need to look up or learn? All the time. All the time. If you've been watching the stream for the past couple of years, one of the tools you'll see me using is SearchFox, which is a code index and searching tool, and I'm using it all the time. Like, this is probably next to my editor and the browser debugger and toolbox. I think SearchFox is like the most important tool in my toolbox here. Like, it's what I use. It's like the first thing I use essentially when I'm looking something up or trying to understand some code, because not only does it allow me to like read the code more easily and find things, it allows me to look into the history of a piece of code, which is sometimes just as important as what it does at the time, is understanding how it got to be the way it is. Like, that's the thing that just looking at the code doesn't give you. Just looking at the code will give you a sense of what it does, but it's also important to know why it does it the way it does, which is not something that the code will tell you, but the commit history will hopefully tell you. And that's something that SearchFox is good at, because if you look at like, here, I'm going to show you some neat things that we can do in SearchFox and in Mercurial. I don't think Git can do this, what I'm about to show you. So first of all, like, you get these really nice sort of highlights along the side of like what commit something came from. Like, this line here came from 2018. Brian Grinstead landed it, and I can see what bug it was for and what it was trying to do by looking at the commit message here. Again, apparently there were some redundant places imports, and so this line got changed. But we can look at the first, like the state of the tree with just when that line was changed by clicking on this link, show earliest version with this line, and SearchFox is being a little slow. But now I can see like what the tree was like whenever it first landed, which is great. And this is back in like 2018 or whenever it was, 2018? July of 2018. And there's something really neat that you can do as well with Mercurial. This is something I learned relatively recently, and it's really, really handy whenever you're trying to figure out, especially about code that disappeared. Like, Searchfox is great for letting you know about code that's still here, but understanding code, when it gets moved or when it goes away is also important. And one way to, understand about like when things got removed is like that's hard to figure out by just looking at Searchfox. But HGWeb, the sort of the web front end to Mercurial, can help clear that up. So one of the things you can do is that whenever you're looking at source code in HGWeb, is you see this like little thing that shows up here. I don't know what you'd call that. It's like a little selector. But what you can do is you click on the plus symbol. I can't say that the UI is the greatest ever, but you click on the plus symbol, and you can like highlight a series of lines, and maybe can you drag? No. Can I really only do maximum two? That's not what I expected. Or maybe I'm supposed to be dragging. Hold on a second. Yeah, there we go. So you can select a range like that, and then you can look at all of the changes in Mercurial over time. So I click on older because I'm looking at the most recent snapshot. So the only way to go is in reverse. And what it's going to show me after it thinks about it for a little bit is it's going to show me the history of these lines of code and every commit that touched them, where it came from, like when it was first introduced. And that's really handy for like auditing and for understanding like, okay, how did we get here? So here's one commit. It was like a formatting commit. Mercurial still thinking about. I probably could have chosen a better example. But here's another commit that touched it, and then another one, and going all the way back to like, I guess when it was, I merged some stuff back in 2019. We're really going back in time here. But, this is really showing you the history, and it like tracks the mutations, which is great, like all the way back to when it was first introduced in 2017. And that's very, very handy. I'm going to show you one more, which is understanding why, like what caused code to disappear. And that can be really frustrating. Is like if I look at, I'm going to have to like try and come up with a synthetic example here, but I'm going to look at the snapshot of browser.js from back in the day and see if I can find us an example. Now, I know this is not related to anything that we were about to work on, but I think it's really neat, and it's handy, especially if you use Mercurial. This stuff is like the best. Let me see if I can find an example of something that I know has disappeared. What has disappeared? Anything that uses like the message manager. Session restore button. Yeah, these frame scripts. Let's figure out. Let's suppose I'm looking at a patch from back in the day that touches these load frame script lines, and this patch is from like 2019. And now I look at the modern code base and realize that these lines are not there anymore. How would I find out when those lines were removed? So one way to do that is to go in like through the Mercurial history and like look at all of the commits and like analyze them, trying to find which was the one that removed those lines. And you can like do it kind of like bisecting by like choosing a date and seeing if they're there, and then cutting it in half and cutting it in half until you can find the one commit. Or let's say I choose these lines and I say, okay, show me changes that go forward in time. I'll choose newer. Come on. Now, this is not a cheap operation. Like, I'm asking the Mercurial server to like do a lot here, especially because a lot has changed since this particular revision. So maybe I'm not being very nice to the Mercurial server, but hey, it's for learnings, and learnings are good. I see some traffic in the chat. Vinik me asks how I'm doing. I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for asking. And Danny Colin asks, what has disappeared? Compact mode? Too soon? Yes, people are very. Some people are very upset that compact mode has disappeared. Um, some people are very upset. Okay, so let's see what happened to those lines. You can see sort of the provenance and how they changed over time, and then eventually, I think you can see that they disappeared. They got removed bit by bit. They got removed until there's only one left. Oh, I think I can actually see more. I can keep going. Over time, they changed. We're into the 2019s here, and then this line got removed. And then I'm asking Mercurial for more information. And it's thinking about it, and I'm sorry for all my colleagues who might be using HG Web, and they're wondering, like, why is it so slow? Although hopefully it's multi-threaded, and I'm just consuming one thread and not all of them. Not the main thread. I'm pretty sure Mercurial can handle it. So I'm looking at more now. I asked for more, so it's going to give me, I guess, the same stuff, but with more. Or maybe that was it. Maybe that was it, and maybe tab content is still around. Let's check. Yeah, it's still here. So that was the last change to those particular lines, was the removal of content.js. So anyways, that is what I wanted to demonstrate. Vinit me asks, I love Firefox and what you do? ? However, on my Mac 2015 is the slowest to boot, Safari, then Chrome, and Firefox. Do you think something is wrong on my end? Well, it could be any number of things. I have to sort of remind people, I think I've said this before, but maybe Vinit me, you weren't watching the stream. It's probably been a couple of months since I've said this. It's really difficult to diagnose a question like that without more information. It's a bit like walking into a doctor's office and saying, my stomach hurts, what's wrong with me? Like, what could be wrong? Like, it could be any number of things could be wrong. We really don't know. We need more information. Maybe you need to go in for an x-ray. Maybe you need to, it's something in your diet. Maybe there's an ulcer. Who knows what's going on in there? But we need more information to figure it out. And the way you get more information these days is, like, you can effectively do what's like an x-ray or an MRI on your browser by collecting a profile. So one way of collecting a profile is you go to profiler.firefox.com. I think I pressed enter. And in the document, first of all, you have to visit here and enable the profiler tool in the toolbar. So there will be a button here that lets you do that, and then it shows up in the toolbar like this. And then if you go into the documentation, there is information on how you can profile Firefox startup and shutdown. And that involves setting like some environment variables. But once you do that and you dump the profile, it's much easier for us to sort of get a sense of what's happening during startup and what things might be slow. Like, in my experience, things that might be slow in a Firefox profile for startup might be, well, first of all, do you have any add-ons, web extensions installed? That might be, for example, blocking your first network request. Because when you say that startup is slow, that could mean any number of things. It could mean that showing the first frame of the browser UI, it's slow to get there. Or showing the first document is slow, and that's completely different. Or it could mean slow to react to user input, also completely different. Like, the question of why is startup slow is a very imprecise question, and we need to sort of drill down and understand what is being asked before we can actually take action on it. So anyways, I know that's not a very satisfying answer. I wish I could tell you, oh, click on this button and it will make everything faster. But in a way, it's very similar to the my stomach hurts problem. We need more information. There's probably ways we can make your browser start up faster, but we need more information in order to know what to do. Perhaps there's something corrupted in your user profile. Maybe, it could be web extensions. Maybe you have some user Chrome customizations that are causing grand slowdowns. Or maybe you have some preferences that you've flipped that are also causing slowdowns. Maybe there's some piece of security software that your operating system is running that is causing slowdowns. Could be any number of things. We just don't know. We don't have enough information. I hope that helps. All right, let's keep moving. But if you do collect that performance profile, we can take a look at it and maybe get a sense of what is wrong. Feel free to drop it into the chat and I can take a look. All right, so what I wanted to work on was, let's see, this bug here. So this bug I had, so yeah, this person does have a user Chrome override. So that, I mean, and who knows what's happening inside that user Chrome override. You might be reorganizing parts of your UI in such a way that the browser JavaScript is getting very confused or throwing tons of exceptions. Or like, user Chrome is not supported whatsoever. Like, that's a thing that you are able to do, but it's not a thing that we test. And it's like the warranty is not applicable anymore. As soon as you start applying user Chrome patches or user Chrome styles, all bets are off on how the browser behaves. There's a reason why we don't make it super easy out of the box to do these things, because it's just not a thing that we can support, because it's just you can do so many different things with user Chrome, and that's really powerful, but it means that the testing matrix is just impossible. Like, it's just, there are too many variations and too many ways that people can change the browser that are really, like, you can't test them all, and so things will inevitably break. And so we want to make it clear for people who use user Chrome that, like, you are on your own. You form a community and help each other out, but you are very much on your own. We can't, like, there's just too much for us to test there. Danny Colin asks, do I know the history behind user Chrome? No, I don't. I think that I don't know. I mean, the idea of style sheets being able to apply to both sites and the sort of the user agent level, because there are like 3 different levels of user style sheets, I think. Do I have that correct? No, I'm wrong about that. But like, whenever you're browsing web content, there is the page author style sheet. Then there are the browser user agent style sheets. And then there's the user style sheets. And that's where user content.css comes in. And that was something that I think Mozilla baked in right from the start, whenever CSS and style sheets were like becoming a thing. And because the browser UI is also styled using CSS, I guess it made sense to have like a similar, maybe we just kind of inherited that capability to read a user Chrome style sheet. I don't actually know, but it's like, it's very, very powerful, but it's effectively like binary patching, like it's like reaching in with your hex editor and flipping bits and modding a piece of software. Like, you can do it, and that's impressive, but do not be surprised whenever your customizations break, because the binary will change underneath it. That's what you are signing up for whenever you start using a user Chrome. That's the trade-off that you're making. All right, let's see here. Yeah, so there's this bug, 1695617. And this is a frustrating one, and we might not, I want to prepare you right now that we might not solve this, because I tried and failed to solve this last week, or no, 2 days ago. And, I wrote a patch and then it just didn't work out, because I thought it fixed it, but it turned out it broke something else. So I'm hoping to look at it again. But maybe I can at least explain what I know about the bug so far. So let me start up a profile, or start up an instance of Nightly, and we can talk it through. All right. Let me see if I can reproduce. Yes, I can reproduce it. Okay. So the problem is, if I open up the library, which is not a default button anymore, if you don't see it in your toolbar, it's because it's in the customize palette here, and you can drag it back into your toolbar. If you don't have any bookmarks or don't have any history, for some reason, when you open the subview, we scroll, we don't expand the panel to the full height it should be at. We maintain this little gap that is scrollable for not sensible reasons. Like there's obviously enough space below the panel to grow, and the you know, why is this scrolling is the question. And what I was able to determine when I was investigating this earlier this week, and maybe I should start writing this down, what I was able to determine, and I'm no longer blocked on eDinfo, so I'm going to clear this tag. Able to determine last week is that the panel subview body element, which is using Zool layout, when off screen and being measured by panel multiview.jsm, the subheader, which has a 0.9 EM font size, I believe, or slightly smaller font size, as well as a slightly as like some padding, as well as some padding, isn't being included properly in the get bounding client rect calculation. So like if we were, what I'm trying to say is, like, if I were to hide this node, or even better, if I were to like adjust this node so that the font is the right size. So if I set the font, if I don't change the font size, and I do this, and I go back, I might also have to like remove the padding around it. Or maybe it's not just that, it was the fact that it's an H2. Like if I make this a label, oh man, label, and there was something else I needed to do. I'm really sort of like making this a dog's breakfast. Bookmarks. I don't think modifying it in situ is helping. Let me open up the CSS and we can modify it directly. And I can show you the sort of the experiments I was running. But that's effectively the bug that we're trying to fix today, or we're looking into. Loopy at 750 asks, what are your thoughts on all the extra proton padding? I like the new UI. I like it. Those are my thoughts. And maybe I'm a bit biased because I've worked on it. So you're asking someone who worked on it. So I'm a bit biased. So, you know, but I like it. I like the browser UI. I think that there is, you know, there's always going to be a reaction whenever UI changes, especially a dramatic UI change occurs. There will always be a reaction. That is part of the name. That is the name of the game when it comes to UI changes. And in this particular case, when I look at the sort of like the overall holistic feel of the browser UI in both Windows and Mac OS, and I haven't tested Linux much, but with Windows and Mac OS, I'm actually quite pleased. Like I like the look and feel of it. Loopy750 says, it's a bit of a drama at the minute, lol. I like everything new except the removal of compact. Yes, there are some people who are very upset about the removal of compact mode. And they are very vocal about it. And some of them are very rude about it. Which does not make us listen more, by the way. Just as a pro tip, tell your friends. If you're out there and you're like being rude in Bugzilla, that's a great way for us to ignore you. We will... And like some people might go, well, look at the rudeness is coming from a place of good. No, I don't care. I don't care where the rudeness is coming from. You know, this is where we work, you know, like going into Bugzilla and just like screaming in all caps and like flipping tables and saying like, I'm leaving this browser. You all suck. I hate you. Like that's a great way for us to just ignore you and not take you seriously. So just a pro tip there. And the other thing is that sometimes people misinterpret not agreeing with not listening. that's the other thing, is people going like, you're not listening to us. You're not listening to us. No, we're listening to you, but we're not agreeing with you on certain things. And that's an important distinction. All right, let's see here. What do I want to do? I've kind of gotten distracted here. What was I about to do? Oh, I was about to demonstrate what happens whenever you change the subheader. Let's do, not history, let's do bookmarks. It's this one. Let's turn this into a label instead. The other argument that some people make is that like, I'm only so rude, or I'm only so like, I think they'll code it as like, I'm being passionate, but I'm only so rude because I care so much. And that's like borderline of like kind of abusive behavior. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Was I wrong? I've changed this to a label. Oh, hang on a second. Let me remove that and then do this. Did I completely... Was I just wrong about what I was doing? Min height. There were a couple of things here that I did yesterday. Min height. There's like a sort of a bizarre min height that was being set that I removed. Yeah, I got rid of that and did this. Just to not apply the min height to the header. Come on. Well, I thought I had this fixed yesterday. What? Or like I thought I was able to... Now I'm very confused. I'm very confused because I thought I had this more or less sorted. But this is interesting actually, because if this is one way of solving a problem, a bug at least, a mysterious bug, is to start like disabling things until the bug goes away, and then trying to figure out what is involved in the existence of the bug. Like if I can just start like by removal, by like via negativa, by like turning things off, and eventually if the bug goes away, then I've learned something. You know, that last thing I turned off, or some combination of things that I've turned off, is associated with the bug, and that is oftentimes very useful. See, like I don't understand why. Maybe it's the empty field. Font. I was observing something very different yesterday. Let's take a look at the layout here. Padding. Oh, and was it also because the margins are not included as part of... Margin, padding, margin 0. Let's go back. No, that was not it. I'm guessing. I already can tell I'm guessing. So here's the problem. For some reason, this node here You're going to be my rubber ducks, folks. This node here, panel subview body. The way the subview transition works, just so we're clear, and by subview transition, I'm talking about this like slidey menu action. For some reason or other, and I don't remember the history behind it, this is called a subview or a panel view. Like there are a bunch of different there's a bunch of jargon for it, but like this is a subview transition is effectively what it's called. And the way it works is whenever you click on this thing, the associated panel is loaded and put off screen and then measured to figure out what its intrinsic size is. And after that measurement has occurred, then the panel that's actually being displayed here has its height adjusted to match that measurement, and then we slide the panel over. And for some reason, for reasons that completely escape me, this measurement that's occurring off screen is not correct, or at least it's thinking that this panel subview body is shorter than it needs to be. Like for some reason, this is compacting itself more than it needs to, and I don't know why. And I thought I had this sorted out whenever I was using, what was it? I put like display flex direction column. And I thought I had that sorted out. Like, look, the scroll bar is gone. I was like, oh, we did it, everybody. But the problem with that is then this thing never scrolls. Pretty sure I got into a state where, yeah, if I say that this is display flex direction column, now this thing never scrolls. And I don't know why. Okay. Anyways, let's keep diagnosing. We're gonna be doing just poking and prodding to see what we can learn. That's the name of the game here. And so there's going to be a lot of trial and error here, and I apologize about that, but that is the way it goes. The element has scrollable overflow. This element is causing the overflow. This element is causing an element to overflow. Toolbar text, this empty thing. Maybe I've been all wrong. Maybe it's this thing. And not the subheader. Where does this come from, this subview button that has label empty? Let's figure out where this thing comes from. What if it's... Okay, here's a theory. Hypothesis. This thing, this empty thing, is being added after the fact, after the measurement occurs, and that's what's causing the measurement to be off. It's not off because of the subheader. It's off because of this empty business. All right, let's see if we can prove or refute that. Danny Colin writes, I totally agree that there was a lot of users who crossed the line and there's no excuse to their bad behavior. However, I think there's also a part of the frustration that comes from the fact that the UX team doesn't work in the open. I mean, everything related to the new design system is only accessible to Mozilla staff, and that goes against the Mozilla Open by Design. Can you, and then exactly, I get moderately frustrated when I see feature requests and a simple no response. If any response from the devs, I think responding with reasoning can diffuse some frustration if everyone knows the context. Well, I can at least speak for myself and say that sometimes I don't have time to explain all of the reasoning. I can say that, especially for this recent project where the deadline was so tight. There were often times where it's just like, I have no time to explain this right now. I have like 30 bugs I have to fix this week, and so a multi-paragraph explanation plus trying to open up all of the data analysis and trying to open up all of the telemetry data, like, I just don't have time. So that's me speaking for myself. I can't speak for the UX and product teams. I do agree, however, that it might be interesting to have them be more present in Bugzilla and Matrix, but I can't speak for their teams. I can only speak for engineering. All right. I think I'm gonna investigate this empty business. Where is that coming from? Bookmarks empty, menu empty folder. Is that where that's coming from? This is a thing called a subview button. It has the label empty, and it's being attached to panel menu bookmarks menu. Maybe we can look and see if there's any JavaScript that's associated here. Aha! So these two places, maybe. You get a places panel view, and we apply it to the panel menu bookmarks menu. When the panel is firing view showing. I see. You know what? We might be onto something here. I don't know how it impacts history, but at least for bookmarks, like, the view showing event is fired just before we show before we transition the panel. And this new places panel view thing, I'll bet you, is doing an asynchronous places database query. And I'll bet that query is causing this empty item to be added once it realizes that the number of bookmarks in the database is like empty. But it has to do that asynchronous database query. And by the time it creates this empty field, I'll bet you the measurement's been done. Let's see here. What can we do about that? I mean, one thing I can try and do is see if that's actually, and how is that going to impact history? Because part of okay, I'm going to restart. I'm going to undo some of the things I've done. Let's revert everything. All of the changes. And we're going to turn that back into an H2. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to also think about was the fact that, like, this history does the same thing, but doesn't, like, would it also do a similar database query? And I'm guessing it would, but let's find out. What we're going to do is I'm going to blow away all my history in this profile. So when it shows this empty thing, is it constructing a similar query? And I'm going to guess that the answer is yes. Yeah, it creates a places view, on view showing. Okay. View showing. Where is this on subview showing thing being called? Oh, so we have the handle of the event here. All right. So let me write down my theory. Theory. The async places database query that is made when the history or bookmark subview fires view showing is causing the empty element to be inserted after the measurement occurs for the transition. And then, like, if that's the case, and then what happens whenever these things like grow dynamically? Like if I set this font to be like 15 pixels, the panel will also change a little bit. It seems to like flex itself a little bit, but no matter what, I have a feeling there's like a subtraction that's occurring for this item that was never here during the initial measurement, which is why this is always scrollable. Okay, that is the theory. How do we prove it? Let us work with the bookmarks one because I think that will actually be easier. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to not run this code. So in browser places, $21.27. I'm just not going to run this. Smurfy asks, is it because of the history and bookmarks is empty, a simple -1 counter? I think it's because the item is just not there, but then it shows up at like the least opportune time, which is during the transition. Before the thing that monitors the size of the panel is set up, but after the measurement takes place. So no, I'm wrong. Like I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Let's get rid of more. I feel like we're onto something though. So places bookmarks menu. Recent bookmarks. Okay, better. If I get rid of the H2, then it goes away. Now I'm going to put the places query back. That's interesting. So this is more in line with what I was seeing before. No H2, so maybe my theory is just wrong because it looks like the empty query or the thing went in. Okay. So that's if the subview is display none, the subheader is display none. Now, how about if I get rid of this class? We're just experimenting. We're just like poking at it. See? Better. Better. Okay, so let's put the class back, but let's remove all of the rules from that class. We're gonna get rid of this rule. Gonna get rid of this rule. And this rule. And this one applies to the panel subview body if there's a subview header next to it, so that does not apply in this case. So if all goes according to plan, yeah, no scroll bar. Good. Now let's put the rules back one at a time. Okay, that one's good. Put that one back. Okay, that one seems related. That one I just put back. Oh, sorry. So I think I had mentioned this earlier, but like there's this minimum height here, and one of the things that I was experimenting with yesterday was not applying that minimum height. Hang on a second. What do I want to do here? I want to like not apply the minimum height except to these. Come on. Except to these other elements. I want all the other rules, but not the minimum height. No, that's not enough. Something else is going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to revert that, and we're going to figure out which of these rules is contributing to the problem. So what I'll do is copy them and then remove them one at a time. So hopefully we still have the problem here. Yes. Okay, let's get rid of the margin. Nope. Let's get rid of the min height. Nope. Let's get rid of the padding and the background color. Aha! Let's put back the padding and the background color. Let's take away just the background color. Okay, so the padding seems to be related here. Let's get rid of the border radius while we're at it. So the padding of this thing is, what's the value? 8 above, 8 to the left and right, 8 below. Then there's like a fractional margin here, because the margins are in EMs. let's set 0 margin. Let's set a different padding. So what's the current padding? What did I say it was? 8. Let's see what happens if I make it 24. We're just fiddling around. We're going to increase it. Okay, that causes more scroll. What happens if I reduce it? 2. So maybe the problem is a function of the padding on the header element. That's my current hypothesis. So this node, if we look at its bounding client rect, has a height of 153, but the scroll height 157. The difference being 4, and 4 is the exact sum of the top and bottom padding. So is it true that the top and bottom padding are not being accounted for when calculating the height of this thing? The box sizing of it is a content box. Is that what we want? Box sizing is border box on these things. Could that be related? That the box sizing of an H2 is the content box. $20, $20. Box sizing. Border box. I need to refresh my memory on what this means. I think that means like everything including the padding. How the total width and height of an element is calculated whenever you use content box. The box sizing content box with padding 5 pixels, it blasts outside of the parent. But if I use border box, it stays within. If the element has any, here, let me pump this up so you can read it. If the element has any border or padding, this is then added to the width and height to arrive at the size of the box that's running on the screen. This means that when you set a width and height, you have to adjust the value you give to allow for any border or padding that may be added. For example, if you have 4 boxes with width 25%, if any has left or right padding, they will not by default fit on one line within the constraints of the parent container. The box sizing property can be used to adjust this behavior. Content box gives you the default CSS box sizing behavior. If you set an element's width to 100 pixels, then the element's content box will be 100 pixels wide, and the width of any border or padding will be added to the final rendering width, making the element wider than 100 pixels. Border box tells the browser to account for any border and padding in the values you supply for an element's width and height. So that means if you set an element's width to 100 pixels, that 100 pixels will include any border or padding that you added, and the content box will shrink to absorb that extra width. Someone says it looks like I'm getting beamed up on the Enterprise. Oh, yeah, the green screen. Sorry, the lighting in here is really bad. Hopefully I will move soon and you won't see me getting beamed up. But yes, I am like glitching out pretty hard. It is often useful to set box sizing to border box to layout elements. This makes dealing with the size of elements much easier and generally eliminates the number of pitfalls you can stumble on when laying out your content. So these are the values that they can be. And by default, an H2 has a box sizing of content box. And I think we're just getting that from like how H2s are, or content box. This is the initial and default value, right? The width and the height properties inside the content include the content, but does not include the padding, border, or margin. The dimensions of the element are calculated as width equals width of the content and height is height of the content, but borders and padding are not included in the calculation, which might explain why, if I look at the height of this thing, get bounding client rect, has a height of 20. Well, hold on a second, because 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, it's including the padding. Should not include the padding, border, or margin. I think we're on to something. The fact that like the change in the layout, like the change in the padding, seems to be related to the amount of scroll here. Seems like that seems like it's related. And there's this V box. How it deals with overflow. Box sizing, border box. No padding. And this thing is box sizing, content box. And everything else is box sizing, border box, display Moz box. That's the other thing, is that I'm mixing. That's it, I think. We're mixing. So I think we may have stumbled on it. Let me confirm and then I'll explain what I just think I just realized. Let's test it. No scroll bar. No scroll bar. Now let's gain some history. See what happens if I gain a bunch of history. So like things start showing up in my history. I think the browser is freaking out because I'm browsing to so many sites at the same time. I'm opening up all these content processes. It's very upset. Close other tabs. All right, let's shut them all down now. But hopefully now we have some history. Oh, it's also the fact that I've got like the dev tools open. So it's getting a lot of. Okay, so we almost have enough to scroll off. Let's keep going. More history, more history. Yay, I've got a scroll bar. Hey folks, okay, here's what I think happened. I think this is what's blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's Danny Colin, you nailed it. We have an HTML element. The HTML element is this header element right here. But this fella right here. It's an HTML node an H2 node. Now, why are we using this? I'm using this, and I'm like, why H2? I'm using this for accessibility reasons. So H2 nodes have this special property in that our accessibility layer knows to describe things in a particular order based on these header elements. Like, we get a lot for free accessibility-wise to make it easier for screen readers to identify important sections. So that's good. But what's really interesting is that we are mixing two different box models. We're mixing the Zool box model. Like, these Zool nodes are all using the Zool box model. And then this node is using the HTML, like, CSS box model, like the what would you call it? Like the standard HTML box model. We are mixing box models in the same frame tree, the same layout tree, and that is causing the bug. So what I have done in this patch is I've told this HTML element, H2 element, and every H2 element like it, use the Zool box model. And that is causing the bug to go away. And I think that's going to be our solution here. I'm very pleased. I did not think we were going to find a solution. But here we go. All right, let's put this up for review. Folks, very pleased. Very pleased. And this is sort of a lesson to myself. I should like have known this. I should have realized this. But like mixing Zool and HTML where like it often works really well. It often works very well, and we get like a lot of niceties from HTML that Zool does not have. The CSS Flexbox model is great. Grid and like CSS Grid, CSS Flex, and a bunch of like new capabilities that HTML and 5 and CSS, modern CSS has, we don't have with Zool. But as soon as you mix the box models, you run into bugs like this. And so I will happily, Danny Colin asks, but there's a box sizing border box in the file. Shouldn't star apply to nested HTML elements in Zool? Yes, and whenever I applied box sizing border box to the HTML node, I thought it would be fixed, but it wasn't. So even if we apply border box to all of them, it doesn't fix it. And the reason for that is because of how Zool and HTML's box models are different. They are different in how they calculate intrinsic sizes. In particular, Zool attempts to, I think they're basically exact opposites, where Zool attempts to grow to fill. No. It starts with the boundaries of the document window that it's in and flows downwards. And HTML's is it starts with the intrinsic heights and dimensions, heights and widths of everything, and flows upwards and then flows back downwards. I think that's it. Basically, two completely different box models. Swift asks, wasn't Zool getting removed from Firefox? Yeah, eventually. That's the hope. We're transitioning more and more things away from Zool to be more like HTML. I don't know if we'll ever be able to get rid of Zool completely. There are certain things that you just can't do with HTML right now. For example, the notion of a panel. Like this panel right here, there's no equivalent. This Zool panel in a Zool window, there's no equivalent in HTML that we could port to. So I have a feeling we can like boil down a lot of the pre-existing Zool and get rid of a lot of it and switch to HTML and the CSS box model, which would be good and would allow us to avoid bugs like what we were dealing with today. But there are certain things that I don't think we'll ever be able to get converted into HTML and CSS. It won't be too many things, but I think it's mainly going to be window and panel. Other things like tree, you can write an HTML equivalent. HBox, VBox, and box, you can definitely write HTML equivalents to those now. And label, description, like all of these leftover Zool vestigial things, there are lots of HTML equivalents that you can use instead. It's just right now it's not been the priority. We were able to get rid of a part of the underpinnings of Zool called XBL, which is the binding language that's used to create Zool nodes, Zool elements, or like custom elements effectively. And we switched those to using like HTML custom elements, which was great. You know, there's a, are we XBL still? Track that effort. And the answer is we are not XBL still. We got rid of all XBL. And that happened like in 2019. And that was great. If we look at the graphs, we just burned them all down. It was a humongous effort. And that allowed us to simplify so much of our layout and so much of our like platform level code. So we just don't have to like support this binding language anymore. And it had like this weird layout characteristic where like the JavaScript would run as soon as something is laid out, which is like a really weird and fragile property of XBL and the source of many bugs. So thankfully XBL is gone. Zool will, I think as we like develop more and more of the browser, I would expect more and more of it to not be written in Zool and more of it to be written in HTML. And so naturally it will kind of like transition away from Zool. If that answers your question. Danny Colin says, I think Zool tree is still used in some places because it has better performance than HTML equivalent. I think no one's done the work to create an HTML equivalent for tree. Like, what was it? Robert O'Callaghan built a demonstration with like 10,000 HTML nodes that demonstrated that it could be done, that you can get like equivalent performance. It's just no one's done the work to create a HTML and JavaScript powered tree. Maybe someday the Thunderbird team will do it, because I know that they are heavily reliant on that, heavily reliant on tree, and you know they need it. So, but the tree is such an awkward API too. The whole thing I think needs to be revisited. All right, so let's get this thing up for review. Loopy750 asks, are the Thunderbird devs in communication with Firefox, or do they do their own thing? We're in somewhat communication. Like, we will, especially if we're touching shared code, we will alert the Thunderbird team that something's going on. You know, like, hey, we're changing how panels look. Here's how you can like revert the changes for yourself, or like here are the attributes you can set, or like we're changing some argument order here, and this is going to break Thunderbird. So here's how you can like update your argument ordering or something. So we're kind of like in communication in that regard, but it's not like a whole lot of communication. There are a number of us who just kind of like do the work of noticing when, oh, this is going to break Thunderbird, or this is going to break, Fennec, you know, or not Fennec, Phoenix. Like, it's important to realize when you're touching stuff, especially shared code between multiple applications, you have to be a good citizen. Like, that's the trade-off you make whenever you have a shared toolkit. It's great. You have deduplicated a lot, but because you have this shared dependency, you have to be more cautious about the changes you make to the shared dependency so that you don't break the other consumers of the dependency. And so, yes, we are in communication with the Thunderbird devs whenever like we change some part of the shared toolkit. Danny Colin says, I think it will start to divert a bit more now since they decided to not implement Proton. Yeah, could be. I mean, a lot of Proton is not built in Toolkit, so that they don't have to do anything about it. Some of it is in Toolkit, and so they'll either have to fork that part of Toolkit and bring it into their own part of the code base. They've done that before. Or they will have to maintain some kind of custom styling on top of it to revert it. I don't know. But we are in communication with the Thunderbird devs. So let's see here. I'm very pleased we got a solution sorted out here. Make sure subview, subheader elements use Zool, the Zool box model. And I think what I'll do is I'll actually add more comments, context to this commit message now that I think about it. It seems that mixing, we've hit another instance of the Zool box model interacting poorly with the HTML box model in hilarious ways. in mysterious, maybe not hilarious, in mysterious ways. In this particular case, the H2 elements for subview subheaders was using the HTML box model while inside of a tree of Zool box elements, and this was causing an incorrect height calculation for the containing scrollable node, the panel subview body. Switching the H2 element to use the Zool box model appears to fix this. Very pleased. Very pleased. Just double checking again. Yeah, it's just the one thing. Am I based on central? Yes, I am. Not. Sorry, I am not. Tip test central. I was reviewing this other thing that was updating some Pocket panel stuff. So we're going to base it on top of central. We'll push it up for review, and then we'll call it a day. This was a very good day. I'm very pleased. Yeah. So, I think I'm going to wrap it here. Thank you so much for watching episode 248 of The Joy of Coding. I'm just going to remind you again, we are 2 episodes away from... Oh, yeah, this is an excellent opportunity to plug another stream. So Danny Colin points out, if you're interested in Thunderbird, you should follow Alessandro Castellani on YouTube. He's live streaming most Thursdays at 2:30 p.m. I believe I've got... Didn't I have a... I thought I was linking to those streams. Where did those go? Search. Alessandro. Yeah, I'm going to put a link here. And I'll update my template. Where are my templates? Oh, I've got a template for my meeting agenda, or my agendas here, that I'll make sure to drop it into after this meeting. Or after the stream, because I don't want to bore you with that. But we should totally see what Alessandro's been up to. If we go into the agenda and follow the link, hopefully it's there now. Yeah. And take a look at Alessandro's videos. Yeah, streamed a week ago. We can see some Thunderbird live hacking number 13. Okay, here's an interesting idea. So for episode 250, I could like react to one of my own streams, and like we can watch it together, and I can pause the video and I can talk about it. Or maybe I can react to someone else's live stream. Like I'm not going to be like critiquing their abilities, but I'll like talk a bit about what they're doing, and like every streamer I would imagine has something fascinating to demonstrate. I have a whole collection of streamers that I'm aware of. Maybe there's a streamer you think that I could watch and react to. We can pause, we can talk a little bit about what they're doing, and maybe try and pick it apart a little bit and see how it's working and what techniques they're using. So let me know. Aha, that lapsus, says Danny Colin. That lapsus? What lapsus? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Lapsus. I don't know what you mean by lapsus, but you know, it might be interesting to like watch a Thunderbird live hacking stream. Oh yeah, meeting and streaming. Yeah. It might be interesting to watch one of these and like see what Alessandro's doing, and maybe we can talk a little bit about it together, and I can learn a little bit about what's happening inside of Thunderbird. These look like they're about an hour and a half long. Yeah, maybe we could watch one and see what it's like. Let me know what you think. If that's a good idea, it's a bad idea, maybe there's a particular stream you want me to react to, or maybe you want me to do the spicy thing, or maybe you want me to do something else entirely. Let me know. You can rate the episode and give me your thoughts. I'm happy to read them all. The link to rate the episode is in the agenda. And with that, I'm going to call it. So thank you so much for watching episode 248 of The Joy of Coding. I will see you soon. Take care, everybody. Let me just transition to here. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.